The Sanatana, meaning the ancient, firm creation of Shiva, Nārāyaṇa, the perfected Adam's era, began, marking the end, the destruction of the Kali, the Iron Age. Let's recap the last 5 parts. According to this and these verses, at the end of this Mahata Kala, the peak of Adharma, the night, Arjuna, who in this same period of the previous cycle was created Vivaswan, the Surya Nārāyaṇa, full of power of yoga, is now in the current cycle here in his last bodily birth, is diminished of the power of yoga. In the tamasi, meaning ignorant of wisdom of Swadharma, Arjuna's kshetra, meaning bodily field, the yogavid, the kshetrajna, meaning the knower of Arjuna's bodily field, the ever white Sada Shvi, Shiva, self manifests. Both souls living together in the same bodily field are Sakha, who together would be praised as Samanakya, meaning equal in wisdom. When Shiva creates Arjuna in his own image during this Adya, meaning today, the beginning of the new day, at this end of night. Adya for Dyu, meaning advancing against the tamas, becoming sharpened. Adya, the beginning, a time to eat the food of yoga that destroys the night of ignorance. Thus, Shiva, the knower of what Arjuna does at every end of night, addresses him Parantapa, meaning one who burns his sense organs, the enemies of one's soul, conquers over his indriyas, including the most difficult organ of lust, while in its action, becomes ruler, governor, master of his bodily senses. The sun, Vivaswan, the brilliant one, shining, possessing brightness, the victorious of wealth of wisdom, aptly addressed as Dhanamjaya, Anagha, meaning the sinless, Vivaswan, also meaning one who wears his body like a pure white cloth, uninfluenced by colors of company. This most difficult task is achievable by one Arjuna alone, through his emaciated, weakened body of his fully aged soul. As said in these 2 connected verses, just like there is bodily Kaumara, Yavana and Jara stages, so are the stages of the self, the soul, across the cycle. Kaumara meaning soul in its childhood, possessing true sattva body, here. Adolescent soul with Rajo body full of passions of lust, anger, greed, here, at the beginning of the night. And soul in its old age with Tama, the emaciated, full of diseases, deteriorating willpower and body by the end of this Kali Yuga. Meaning the 3 stages pass in their order, one after the other, with reduced soul power and bodily strength in the 4 ages across the day and night, the heaven and hell. Supreme teaches Arjuna to become Gunatita, meaning devoid of the 3 strings called gunas, to become stable in Swadharma, meaning holding on to self as the master of one's body. That is, transformation of a diminished of power of yoga, old aged soul, becoming a pure infant-like soul filled with power of yoga called Brahma, while being in the last emaciated body. As and when the soul attains such stage, it can no longer hold on to its emaciated body, just as said in this verse, that a soul of a kind has the body of its kind. Shiva's new Shastra explains the meaning of these verses that mention that within the 2 to 3 births in the period from 1936 to 2036, 100-year dawn time. The effort made in the first of the 3 births is carried forward to the next birth, brings the soul to the family of pure, prosperous people, receives the connection of the intellect of the yogis, and in the extraordinary 3rd birth, within a few years, the soul crosses all worldly noise and unites with the Shiva's wisdom, and displays extraordinary intellectual abilities and power gathered earlier. Thus, verily, Shiva, the knower of Arjunas, all, including the 2 to 3 births during this dawn, mentions to Arjuna in this verse that if you die, you will attain Swarga, meaning the stage of Swa, the self, soul consciousness, and having conquered your Indriyas, fully empowered in my yoga, in my equivalence, you will conquer the Mahim, meaning all the minds of the people of both worlds. Thus asks him to continue to do Yuddha. The word Yuddha has been interpreted as a literal violent war of bows and arrows, killing people. The new scripture elaborates that the arrows of sound of supreme intellect, the leader of the bodily bow, Arjuna, kills all people of their false opinions and makes all to detach from their bodily attachments. Shiva's interpretation matches with the etymology of the word Yuddha, which means fought, overcome, subdued, conquered, vanquished. Yuddha from Yudh, from root to Yut, means to shine, clean and pure with brightness in soul, meaning mind and intellect, by keeping off or preventing, or as said in Vedas, delivered from the enemies, the foes of the soul, the sense organs. Yut, allied to roots Jut, Jyut, Dyut, means to shine, illuminate. The word Jyoti from Yut means the light of the sun, of dawn, the daylight of Devaloka, opposed to Mahat Tamas, the night of the 7 irreligious branches. The word Dyut, related to the word Adya, means to be brilliant or become manifest, to enlighten, as Agni, the Vishnu, the Lord of heaven. Adya is related to Dyu, meaning sharpness at the beginning time of day, a time to eat, yoga, and destroy the night. Thus Arjuna, Virendradev Dikshit, who has conquered his sense organs, including the organ of lust, became Amarnatha by eating constant unadulterous remembrance of Shiva, self-manifested in his emaciated body, had become filled with power of yoga, transformed into infant stage soul, thus left his last bodily field out of his own will to take a body as powerful and attractive to appear before the world, whose sketch was drawn on Shiva's suggestion in 1961. As a young boy, the Purusha Rishabha, Nārāyaṇa, in the image of the Purushottama Shiva, with ornaments being the depiction of his wealth of divine wisdom and virtue, the personified Sanatana Dharma. Supreme Father Shiva never takes birth in our world, but creates Arjuna, the Tata, meaning the world's father, in his image, thus showing his power to the entire population. This soul, whose bodily name was Virendradev Dikshit, who has been constantly defamed while he was in the process of conquering over his Indriyas, stayed balanced in all the allegations throughout. He is the only one who understands what Shiva is telling him to do to overcome vices, more specifically the vice of lust, and becomes Amarnatha, meaning soul-conscious creator of heaven, the creator of divine virtuous deities, detached of any attachment to their bodily sense organs. This is how the soul of Arjuna looks in his last birth of the cycle, and this is how he will look in his first birth of the new cycle, marking the beginning of the Satya Yuga, the Krita Yuga, the golden age, a period within the end of the Kali Yuga for all to see and recognize the Father, the Supreme Lord, Nārāyaṇa, the perfected Adam, created by Yahweh Elohim, Shiva, in his Sadharmya, meaning equivalence. According to the new Shastra, the soul of Brahma, the Krishna Chandra, the crescent moon, Hanuman, the author of Shiva's Shastra, Lekhraj Kriplani, will unite in opinion, and he will realize and accept that he is not the God of Gita, but it is his father who would father him in the new cycle as the first child of the golden age world. Recognition of this father by all, by their turn, and the destruction of the current Iron Age world will happen simultaneously within the year 2036. Please make use of this most valuable time of the cycle and attend the creation course at AIVV to know about Supreme Shiva's wisdom about us and our world known to him alone, and the biography of his dear unipresent bodily chariot, the hero, father of our world, and be part of their auspicious task. One may find the center nearest to their residence through these state-wise numbers or contact the head office.